All right, I believe that we are going.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. Anyone. Okay, so I haven't showed Jordan this yet. That's where I want to start. First of all, I set up Signal the other day on my phone, which is like a messaging app that's supposed to make it all secure. And I got this message from the number one. Oh, can you not see that?
Oh, the crying baby.
Yeah. Or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really look like crying. What is that?
It's just the baby mask. Somebody dancing with the baby mask on.
Why'd I get it though?
What did you do again?
I got a text message from the number one.
Mm-hmm.
The phone number was 1. And it's just that whatever animated thing.
I don't know. This is probably so many different ways you could have get it, or somebody just messing with people.
I thought that was weird.
That is pretty
I
random.
have a text message from a number that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. You know that like 70% of the calls now are spam calls, and they're exclusively on cell phones. They've gone completely away from landlines, and like between 50 to 70% of all calls now are spam calls.
I believe it. I get a lot, and just keep blocking numbers and blocking numbers and blocking numbers.
Mm-hmm. And they're doing this thing called they spoof local numbers, like through Google. You can get the Google phone or whatever. You can get the numbers.
Yep.
So they'll spoof local numbers, so people are like, oh, at least it's a local number. Maybe I'll answer it. Yeah.
Dude, the Granite Shop, the phone number for the Granite Shop is up online, and so it's a business phone number online. Just so many garbage calls would come to that.
Yeah, that's how I do too, because I put my business number online, but I get the Google Voice numbers because of that. I don't want people calling my regular cell phone number. It still comes through my cell phone, but at least I don't have my normal cell phone number.
Right. Do you still get all the junk calls?
Junk calls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess what I was thinking with that is how what am I saying? How much do you think they keep track of, watch, see that happens on your cell phone? Like, I do think they're probably recording everything, but what are they? How much control are they trying to have through that?
See, this is where people get this is when you're getting into like what AI is really all about, and all this talk about privacy and recording your stuff. So
I'm proposing we go down that rabbit trail for a while.
So even just say that they are, and that's if you want to get into the whole Q thing, and what everybody's saying is like they've been recording everything since early 2000s, right? For everybody. So everything that's ever been done that's bad by anybody is there. And now it's just that there's people looking into certain people to try and discover what they've been doing. So everything that you've been doing on your cell phone, like that's why I deleted my Facebook app, because every text I sent on my regular phone was being stored on my Facebook app. And I'm like, that's bullshit. But it's all just stored somewhere in a database. And it's impossible for anything we currently have to really, really sift through all that data with any meaningful sense. Like they can collect all this data and maybe put certain words in, like bomb and terrorist, and I'm sure that list grows and grows over time as intelligence comes in and people try to get around the current system. But they can maybe highlight, as a programmer, you can say search for certain terms, but you can't include everything, and it takes manpower. Humans still have to do some of that work. Humans have to go through some of those messages and be like, that's bad. A AI computer can spit out a book of somebody's transcripts, and you have to figure out which parts are bad or which parts have meaning in them, especially when you include like humans naturally encrypting things by talking, even just drug dealers and stuff, like calling them weed something else, like having to determine all those things. So it's more like you only really probably have to worry about it if you're doing something bad or you get caught. They can maybe locate your file and go through everything on you and determine like this. Look, we can prove you did it bad. Like that's what they're kind of doing now with all this stuff online, or all the things that are coming out. Like we can go through all your social media records and find out every tweet you ever sent that might have been slightly racist, and like, you're a horrible person. It's like, that's just in the public sphere. So, like, for me, and I'm looking at what's going on right now in the public sphere, especially with all this FBI stuff, and like, I'm sick and tired of classified information. I'm tired of not being told like we're not adults or something, or they're doing shit that's bad or it's embarrassing or whatever. But I don't even care like if it's classified for national security. Like we did something to Saudi Arabia 20 years ago, and if they found out about it now, they'd be pissed. I'm like, well, let's throw all of our cards on the table, people. Let's get back to a level. And I think that's what the whole blockchain is, like the transparency aspect of it. It's getting all the secrets out so we can kind of have an adult conversation about it and move forward.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. And it seems like kind of the same thing is the power problem over data, where we're like choosing to give a few people and say like, we trust you to keep secrets and to look at everybody else's secrets and make sure that none of them are bad.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we're all just on an equal playing field, then yeah, people will keep secrets.
We all like to manipulate the situation or our environment to better suit our needs. So when you got people in control that they can start hiding what they're doing, and then you extend that over 2 decades, it's gonna get skewed, and that's just human nature. So like we gotta like keeping us all on blast keeps us honest. Like if our shit's out there in the open, we're less likely to keep doing stupid shit.
Right. Dude, I feel like, I guess this last week, I was saying to Jordan before we started that it's been a long week. I was honestly not remembering whether Jordan and I talked last week or 2 weeks ago. And I was thinking that even a couple days ago. So after 5 days, I was wondering whether it had been 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is it? And I'm like, is it, did the stock market crash this week? Yeah, time's getting funny. That did just happen. Like, I'm like, oh, it's just starting. Everybody's all figured out. Like, it's not going to, it's going to go up maybe a little bit and then be like, bye.
Cliff put out, I think it must have been the last live stream he did, was talking about this is what it feels like to go through one of these emotionally intense times. And man, I feel it. I feel like stuff is moving so fast. So much stuff is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many people are waking up or admitting or whatever it is to so much of the stuff that we've been talking about for a long time.
Yeah, he's talked about it before. And I think when people get in the whole, there's these systems controlling us and manipulating us and stuff. And I'm like, we're all choosing it. Like the people that red pill themselves, they choose to get out. So it's all a choice to me. But there's a system, there's a certain like reality to this, the unfolding world that we live in, that like the whole Renaissance period and like periods of change, that's just a cyclical pattern in humanity. You can't stop it. And they've been trying to stop it. And Cliff talked about it in the video back, and he's like, they've been trying to stop this next human renaissance. He's like getting into the woo-woo future sci-fi. But he's like, they've been stopping it and holding us back, and it's really just compounding. And what's going to happen is, like, if say it was supposed to happen over 20 years, they've stopped it for 10 years, and then there's just going to be this explosion of technology and all this stuff in this 10-year period because it has to complete the cycle. And, like, that's where humans are starting to get all antsy, like, there's something wrong. And we know they're not telling us everything. And that's what you're seeing out there. Everybody's going crazy because we have all been kind of held down for so long.
Right.
And they're really good manipulators, man. They're good.
It's a funny thing though, because, and I think this is a exactly parallel conversation with money that we were having about money last time. Is you can push and you can be good at pushing, but exactly, you can't change that the cycle is going to complete anyway. It's going to complete in the same time anyway. Mm-hmm. So you can push, make it all sorts of weird, but all you're doing is like taking all of this energy, all of this change that should have happened in this time, and smashing it into a little tiny time, mm-hmm. and it's going to be rough.
Yeah, it's in it. Nobody's unscathed or untouched by this. These people that are doing it, if there's these powers that be that are in control, don't act. We all act like they're untouchable and nothing affects them. No,
right.
Like they breathe in the same polluted air we do. They don't have special masks on, and if they do, have you ever worn a mask on your face? It's not a nice life. You wear something over your face all the time. You're like, man, this sucks. So there's always positives and negatives of things, and you have to deal with the backlash of people and just the greater world. I don't know. Like we can't. Yeah, you can get into the whole weather. We control the weather and all this stuff, but things like the tsunami that just happened and stuff, earthquakes, we can't control all that. And like we can, they can try and control everything so much, and then Mother Nature's like, hey, smack.
Right. I was having this conversation about personal relationships the other day. Like if you in a personal relationship are telling somebody something that's not true, you're trying to be nice to them, but you're telling them something that's not true. It's like fostering it. You've warped time in a weird way where that thing is going to grow mm-hmm. until it becomes a problem, until you realize it's a problem. And then would have been so much better if you just told the truth up front and things stay.
Have you that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions?
Yes, exactly.
And with my clients, I work as a behavioral consultant and work with people with autism and their families. And over 2 decades of giving people things and giving them disability and taking care of them, I'm like, what if the government goes away and they can't take care of them anymore? The people are like gonna be in serious trouble, and that's gonna start happening to the whole country. Like.
They break your leg. They break your leg and then give you a crutch and mm-hmm. you say thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there was something I was going to say. I can't remember. I just lost it. It'll come back.
I lost our spot. It's a rough time when we've been lying for so long. We've been lying about so much for so long and trying to manipulate reality. And yeah, it's like the weird thing because the better we get at bending it, the harder it hits us when it finally breaks.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of this goes back to like what you said. I said at the Money Changer event, and then you brought up when we talked with Jason and him about America doesn't have an incentive to change right now because we're at the top, and that's why we can't. It's hard to wake up Americans. Mm-hmm. We don't realize how great we got it, and then at a certain level, you're like, okay, yeah, we got it really good, and that the general population be like, what do you want me to do about that? I'm not going to go over to the country and give all my stuff away to people to make their lives better, because right now our lives aren't necessarily all that great. Like, doesn't matter if you're wealthy or you're unwealthy. We all go through the spectrum of being happy or sad. Like, money doesn't make happiness. So, but it makes it a little easier. That's true. And when you're in America, you've like squashed everybody else to get on top. But I think the whole world's going to move towards a place that we all kind of have to start contributing more to society. And I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, and I was saying, and this is going back to that quote, if you're not a socialist when you're 20, you don't have a heart. Right. And if you're still a socialist in your 40s, you don't have a brain. And this I see as a issue with how we raise children. Like, from 0 to 18, kids were like, we got to take care of them, we got to give them everything. we give them everything. We don't, like, some parents make them work for stuff, but even in general, we'll try and give them as much as we can and take the burden because we're like, they're kids. And then so at 18, we're like, now you're an adult, go out in the world. And they're like, okay, world, take care of me like I've been taken care of. And the world's like, no. And so, like, if you look a lot of these, especially with the Antifa and the Democratic Socialists, they're the younger crowd because they've been used to being taken care of. And I'm not saying that, like, that I was taken care of, and I'm like, that's why I'm such an asshole to kids, because I'm like, I was spoiled, and I'm not going to let it happen to you. That not to say that I had a great childhood and all that stuff, but if we have this, I've really been thinking on this issue of us, how we protect children and shield them from the realities of life, and I'm like, that's not realistic when we just expect them to become adults at 18. Like, this, it's a process. Like, even you're 27, I'm 36, and I'm like, man, I'm finally starting to get a hang of this life thing. Woo! I needed those 20s to really knock me around and show me what's going on. Like, so this movement, we need to kind of, I think we got to preparing, like, young people that, hey, we all got to contribute into the world. Nothing can take care of us because we're coming up on a little bit harder time for humanity, I'm feeling.
Right. I'm so excited to have kids. And then my little sister has a 7-month-old kid. And my little sister is she's done babysitting and worked at daycares and gotten an education degree and, like, taught in schools and blah, blah, blah. She's worked with kids a lot. But been a nanny, like a professional nanny for one family in Seattle where they're paying a bunch of money to have a person take care of their kids during the day, one person on just their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really good. And her kid is so freaking smart already. And I've spent a fair amount of time with kids too. And I have a decent feel for, like, how smart they are, like where they're at in their development process relative to their age. And man, her kid's so smart, and it's exactly what you're saying. She's really good at that. She's really good at letting her kid learn and giving her kid the space to test stuff out and try stuff and fail and learn.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people, I see them just like spending so much energy trying to protect their kid, and yeah, you're creating this weird time warp, and it's going to come back and hit you.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it's weird because I didn't have my own kids personally. My partner has kids, and so they're a little bit older, not too, they're still young, but
right.
And having this whole other, even as a therapist and doing child development and working with children in the therapy aspect, and then seeing them grow up and not trying to fix a problem or be there to protect them, and just kind of seeing, like, step back and, like, let's watch the kids. And it's scary. Like, sometimes you look at them and you're like, holy shit, you're a little, and you're just a really intelligent human, just like me. You're just little and you don't have as much experience, so you're dumb. But that intelligence is there, and it's kind of freaky. It's scary. You're like, oh, because it's this unbridled intelligence that, I don't know, it's a little eerie. You use a good word.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, yeah, a baby, you can look at a baby and they can communicate stuff to you, and you're like, wait, that's already in you?
And it was a Jordan Peterson, one of his talks, and he was saying, like, and he was just talking about kids and parenting. He's like, oh, parents got a hard job because what you really have is two people that have, like, promised to take care of little shitty humans, because they're little crap. Like, kids are crap. They're intelligent beings, but they're crappy at being good humans. They have to learn, like, proper social etiquette and all that stuff. So, like, you have to deal with these little brats that think they're kings and control the world. So he's like, parents have to deal with shitty little shitty humans, and you have to teach them to be better humans as they grow. And then you clearly see that certain parts of their brain have not developed yet. So you could try to teach them a lesson. You're like, man, it's going to be another 5 years before you even get close to understanding this.
Right. It isn't so much of it, though, a time scale thing, a perspective thing. Mm-hmm. If you're worried about what's good for you this 5 minutes, what's going to be the most fun this 5 minutes, you're going to have a rough life. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of also being a bad person. Like, if you're only worried about what's good for you this 5 minutes, you're probably going to be a bad person to everybody around you. Whereas if you're worried about what's the best for you in the next 20 years, 50 years, then you treat people a whole different way. And if you're a little kid, you don't like understand how you're pushing on time yet. So you just are looking out for yourself in much smaller chunks, much smaller time frame.
Yeah, time is really weird. It's just there's so many different aspects and ways to approach it. And like you said, like when you get as a kid, why is a half-hour ride so much longer for a kid than it is for adults? Because if you take that half hour divided by my whole life, it's a much smaller percentage than it is if you take that half hour divided by their life. So from their perspective, it's like, oh my God, this is taking up such a big percentage of my life. Mm-hmm. Now I drive around like an hour at least every day for my job, and I don't even realize. I'm like, and it's even driving around up here is kind of back roads. It's not traffic, or it's just old people that drive slow, and I have to. That's my own thing to deal with. But down south where it was LA traffic and just shitty, like this is a different traffic. I'm like, oh, whatever. I just got to learn to chill with it. And I could still take an hour to commute, but it's a different vibe up here. But it's still like the time that is. It's not as impactful. Even going back to when I was in college, when I was in my early 20s. Thinking about driving a half hour somewhere, I'm like, God, that's so long. I drive half hour just to kind of get to civilization now to do my work, and I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Go listen to the radio and enjoy it.
Right.
Time. The more you have of it, the more it just starts to change.
I was trying to the other day. I caught myself getting frustrated about the traffic, and I tried to like step out of it and drive as if I was driving by myself on a lonely road, and then. It felt like playing with time. I like got a whole bunch more time back because I just relaxed and accepted that the traffic is really crappy right now and busy. So I'm gonna have to go really slow. But as soon as I accepted that, I like made time for myself to think about other stuff instead of being consumed.
I like where this is going, because I posted on Facebook the other day and I was like, okay, everyone, looks like we've all got a little bit too much crazy going around. Like, let's all turn off the news. Realize that it's not all about politics, and I capitalized choosing. Like, realize we're all choosing where to focus our attention. And so what I've learned from, especially, I finally got my partner. She's going to go to one of the 10-day meditation retreats. It's all silent. Oh man, I'm like, yo, you're gonna get punched in the face.
I want to do one of those.
Dude, it's called Vipassana. Go to dhamma.org, DHAMMA.org. Anybody, they're free 10-day meditation retreats. All around the world. Oh, you want to change your life? Go to one of these. But, where was I going? Got off track. Choice.
Choosing.
We're choosing. So like you're saying, like, you can sit in traffic no matter where you are. And again, with meditation, what you learn to do is kind of make all of life a meditation. So no matter what, I can use this now moment to focus my attention and awareness. Before I might be like, and yelling at the person in the car next to me, or putting off all this negative energy and just stewing in it for a certain period of time. Versus, you changed the illusion. This world is an illusion, and it's based on your perception of it. And you instead of being stressed by all this, let me picture that I'm on an empty road and feel that energy, and you morph the illusion, at least your perception of it, which changes the illusion and how everything around you, because we're all putting off energy as we take things in. And as soon as you change off what you're putting out, you're changing what happens out there, and thus what comes to you in the future. So that's why we all have to start changing our perception of the world and how we want to look at the future and treat each other. If we're going to have any hope of getting anywhere better, we all have to take the self-responsibility for our choices, even our thoughts.
There's a couple of things in there that hit me different. Take responsibility totally, and that it makes it way easier to play with whatever it is when you do take responsibility. But at the same time, we are putting off, but everybody's putting off. Mm-hmm. So you are getting hit with other people's stuff. And that frustration in the middle of traffic, we're all waving together. So it's extra hard to step out of that.
Yeah, it is. Because I didn't say it was easy. But right. what else can you do? What else can you actually control?
Right. No. And as soon as you do take responsibility and say, I am choosing to vibe on the same frequency that everybody else around me is, then that's the only way you can step out of it. If you just say, well, it's going around, this is what everybody's feeling, then you're stuck there.
Yeah, one of my old spiritual teachers, he referred to it, and he used the musical keys, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. And he says our planet and the population is vibrating at do. Like we meditate, we do different things, we do things, we raise ourselves up. But the whole thing, and it's no matter what, it doesn't matter how evolved the situation or a civilization gets, the tone they're operating at is do. For their, like, even if they go up to a high level, it's just the new do. And we, like the people, the spiritual teachers, the people are like, let's go further versus the just mass population. They're like, let's go, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. But it's so you're when you're sitting there in the traffic and the general population right now is kind of angry and upset and very divided. So the do is that, it's like do, and you're like, and you're like trying to hold it, but it's this whole force is pulling you back down, and you're trying to lift it up, and it just takes a certain percentage of the population to start raising it up to make the whole population kind of slingshot up, and then it's the new do. But so what we're trying to do is just, but we have to vibrate at a higher frequency altogether, and it takes willpower. And like when you look at the macroeconomics of things, it's like 20% of people do most of the work in populations from a certain perspective. And this is the same with the spiritual things. That's why you got monks sitting in hilltops and friars, people at monasteries. They're the people that are holding this higher vibration for humanity. As we all try to rise it up.
But you're saying that this S curve applies in a couple different ways there. And adoption. At first, it's hard to. Only a few people are being on a different wavelength, but then it starts to catch on a little bit, and as soon as it catches on a little bit, it runs away, and then it tails out at the end. That we're networked and we're affecting each other and pulling on each other, and there's a tipping point. And that's what this thing is. There's a tipping point where all of a sudden enough people have now got here where it happens really fast, and a bunch of people just snap over. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's where you can get into the whole manipulation and control things. And that's what the whole separation and division thing is. If you can't get enough people on the same wavelength, even just splitting, like even starting to play them against each other's narratives is a good way to make nothing happen. Like we all got to realize at a certain level, I have not met a single person that has never been hurt in their lives and hasn't had some sort of trauma that they probably have PTSD from.
They
have had, like everybody has experienced that I've met in my life. I've met anybody that I can't sit down with and within an hour be like, here, you want me to help you deal with that PTSD? Because it's there for whatever. And then so obviously certain topics are much more prevalent or pronounced or ingrained in society, especially when you get into the whole patriarchy and women being silenced and raped and all this stuff. And now it's like it's being mass triggered, and we can't have any kind of rational discussion about any of these things because things that have never been able to be talked about are now out. But I'm coming back to this perspective that we all have something that's been happened to us, and we're going to have to find our way to work through it in our own lives and our own understanding and perspective of it to see why that happened to us, to make us a better person, and to hopefully try and change the greater society with it. But we all have that hurt inside of us. So when one person comes out and you're gonna bring up the hurt in the other person, and you're gonna cause them to be on the defensive. And we all need to have our stories heard and be able to hear other people's stories. And that's just open community dialogue. Not saying anything can be fixed necessarily, but we have to have acknowledgement of certain things to move forward. And this goes back, I guess, to the open transparency and like, let's have adult conversations about what's actually going on so we can try and have some semblance of a society moving forward.
Right. That seems to me like almost one fairly simple switch. The switch from this bad thing happened, hide from it, to this bad thing happened, accept it, and figure out the best way to move on.
You know how to be a therapist now, dude. That's it. As a therapist, you're sitting there and like everybody's got shit that they're not. It's not okay to talk about. And I'm like, right when something bad happens, I'm like, let's talk about it, so I don't have to think about this shit anymore. Because we all just bounce it around our head and nothing gets solved until like the vibrations get out into the ether, and then it bounces around out there. But yeah, and that is what I felt when I read the Satoshi white paper too. This honesty factor, this something where it's like transfer. It's like this is a little tiny change that's gonna just radically morph.
Have you watched the videos I put out?
I've seen some of them, not all of them.
Several have been related to our conversation last week. I just put out one this morning called Purchasing Power and talking about that. And then it ended with purchasing power. Like, so I described purchasing power in a kind of more pure way than it exists right now. And then said, purchasing power, as I've described it, is a fairly benign type of power. But all it takes is introducing this ring of power to create money. And it gets distorted. It's like, and then I played this song, the Firefly song or whatever. Firefly, I don't know. A happy, very popular go-lucky song, but a distorted version of it. And it's just like, it's almost there, but it's like, because the people that make the money, because we have this whole crazy corruption factor where it's pulling a bunch of energy to be corrupt, because that's a really good way to exist in a system that has the power to create money.
Yeah. Do you think that there's more good or bad in the world?
Definitely way more. Well, I don't know, actually. More good or bad. I need to find that. It's a weird.
Glad you caught yourself. I think it's probably about equal. Jordan Peterson or maybe Alan Watts, that he was kind of saying. Alan Watts, his talk on this was kind of saying it's really 2/3 good, 1/3 bad. And the way the whole world is set up is that we have a situation where the good side's always winning, but it seems like it's in threat to be losing. And it's a situation where the bad side always seems like it's gaining ground and is in a threat to take over. But that never happens. It's always this ratio of good to bad. But it's like, I'm trying. This is. Have you seen it? It's kind of like it's a toy we use with some of our clients. It's almost like a sleeve made of plastic, and it can fold in on itself. So say there's like
a Mobius strip.
Yeah, a Mobius strip. It's like that. That's the best description I have for trying to understand how I see like reality and time folding forward. Like it's not. It's just this thing that keeps squeezing forward, and it creates things within itself to challenge itself, to make itself grow, and it just keeps going. And like with Cliff High, and he talks about how reality is created 22 trillion times a second. Like there's not this big bang that split it out. It's like everything is just created and destroyed, created and destroyed, created and destroyed 22 trillion times a second. And in that, it just every time it's recreated, it changes a little bit, and thus we see movement. Like
the ever present now.
Yes, that's this, and so
that's
this combine that with this Mobius strip, and this we're all the reality is going forward. The past doesn't really exist anymore. The future is a future projection. Right now, it's just like we're like, what the fuck is going on? We're all kind of modeling what everybody else is doing and trying to understand what the hell is going on.
Right.
So like the whole thing is like emerging into something new, and we're all like trying to control it. I think we're trying as humans. We've been
trying. Yeah, we've been trying for so long, and trying, and like the more we try, the better we get at it, the longer we can sustain it until it breaks.
Until it crashes, I'm like,
the Tower of Babel, we're trying to build in heaven, and you just keep trying to. Eventually, you get it, and it just blows up. It doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm. So this is where I get into my woo part of the time, and I was even having a conversation about this yesterday because I was explaining when I noticed as I was a kid that I could just get the answer to question information I had never. Somebody was trying to say, he's like, you probably heard it at some point. I'm like, no, dude, I was a 5-year-old kid. This information never came into my purview. All right, I don't care, whatever. But then he got into it, and he was like, yeah, you were a kid. Kids can do that. And I'm like, well, I can still do it. And he's like, well, you're a palace builder. And I'm like, now extend that across lifetimes. A palace builder is a way people construct their memory to help them easily recall things, even just seeing an object they've constructed in their mind. Even if they don't realize they've been doing it, they've made it so that the object can correlate to something in their mind. They can have a memory related to it. Try and think about that over lifetimes. Like if you, and this is the whole process. So go to the meditation retreats and start working past the whole concept of this is me. No, this is your vehicle that you drive through life and your lifetimes. And try and connect memory and time without the need of this physical body. Like that there's a part of you, like even this, when I had the thought, I'm like, because I was like, well, let me take an object in this lifetime and program it or charge it with something to make it so that if I see it in another lifetime, it'll wake me up and make me have a memory. And then I'm like, well, what if I've already done that in past lifetimes? Like, what if, that's why maybe you go to certain places and it just triggers something and you have like this epiphany and you're like, what was that? Like you sat there in the past lifetime and you charge this place and you're like, this will be it's a spot that'll wake me up. It's a key, a future key kind of a thing. I think that's when you hear, like when you red pill yourself to a deeper level, you've been able to have, like, you have a greater knowledge over lifetimes and you can start to tap into your deeper memory. Because to me, when I really, like, this crazy part of me, when I started getting into cryptos, I'm like, this feels like I've been fighting this battle against banks for like centuries. It's like this thing just keeps going, cycling. Like, damn it, they're in charge again. How do we let them get in charge, guys? We gotta fight this battle again? God damn it. Let's go. And then like I go to sleep and I wake back up in a few hundred years and be like, again? Awesome. I don't know. But it felt like this isn't something that's just happening now, and it's not the first time I've come around to it. But it's a different, the cool thing is that there's a whole new tool. Like blockchain's a whole new weapon. It's like, whoa. But I don't know. To me, it feels like when people like talk about the whole Jesus thing and how sins were actually debts, and he's like, I'm here to forgive your sins. That makes a lot more sense. And then you go to, who was it? Jefferson or Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, not Alexander Hamilton, it was Jefferson in this country, and the central banks getting established here. Why did the people even flee the two big central banks, which happened to be the Central Bank of France and Central Bank of England, back when people were like, let's go start a country over there, America? It's like, I think the narrative we've been told is wrong. This whole time it's been like certain people trying to get away from banks.
Money's.
And there's good uses for banks if they're done right, and like you got a community of people together, and like, I don't know. There's ways that everything's so dualistic in this stupid reality. But I don't know. Again, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, trying to address this whole thing that's going on with rape culture and all this stuff. Like, throughout time, we've all been going through different cycles of growth and evolution. When you were over in England, there was a certain technology, even back during the dark ages and stuff. And over in America, the American Indians had a different lifestyle, teepees. They migrated around, bored, and we have traumas that go along with it, and we get hurt. But we also have really great experiences that help us grow to new beings. And it doesn't seem like it's had this 150-year period of peace, and then this person shows up and starts to muck the system up, and we're like, good, let's start the movie there, because we don't want to watch the peace times. And like right now, we're coming up on not peace times, and everybody's like, good, because shit needs to change.
Right. One person can work out a lot, get really strong, then come sit on the couch for 3 years, and it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get sick. Your body starts deteriorating, and you got to deal with that. So either you deal with the constant stress of you keep going to the gym, or you let it stack up until you get sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot about to happen. Man, we're so not told the truth on the news. Even so, like in China, they're controlling their internet, so they can't, like, people can't search and realize that people are pissed off all over the place with the way that the economy is there. Like, they've been doing the same thing over there, just printing money. Just because they're not democratically elected officials, just we're that's more the facade to keep us happy. We're a corporatist country. And so, like China, they just tell them what to do. Here, they tell us what to do, and then they say, but you can choose between these two. Like, they have effectively been able, with I think TV, to like let people get upset and then have them just sit back on the couch and be like, okay, I expressed that anger, and then they watch the next piece of news and they get riled up and then they sit back down, and like they don't get out there and do anything about it. And this comes back to the whole self-responsibility. I don't care if you feel that we're all being manipulated or controlled, you're still sitting on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you say we're being manipulated and controlled, and then you can continue to sit on the couch, now you're really just the problem. Like,
yep.
And we're about to make it. The world's not like, when the government can't take care of you anymore, everybody's gonna be like, oh crap, I need help. And then they're actually gonna have to do something, right? Because there's not gonna be anybody to help them.
I have two things that I want to go back to. One is, did you see Cliff and Ben's talk?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're talking down the same kind of lines. I found that super interesting, and I think, at least in some way, Ben exactly nailed it. That we pick up these signals, and we can change our tuning. We can change what we hear.
Mm-hmm.
We can change what we pay attention to. It's not hear through your ears, and it's not see through your eyes, but it's like what you notice.
Okay, yeah. I like that conversation. And actually, were you around when I was talking to Ben at the Litecoin Summit? Because me and him started talking about this, the frequency thing. Mm-hmm. But this goes into my own personal entertainments on the side. Certain things I like to try, and certain substances I've used. When you have a certain type of experience like I've had, you'll realize that this is what you're seeing is you're receiving. Yeah, something's happening where there's a frequency, bandwidth you're on, and it can be changed. So you're like, as much as you know, you're awake and you're like, I am not in the same dimension. You're not in the same place. Dimension, reality, whatever. There's bandwidths that you frequencies into. And that's why I'm so fascinated with meditation, because you can access these without any substance or anything. And that's like, but that's the reason that doesn't happen for most people, and why most people shouldn't use drugs, is because that's operating with your soul. The different part of you versus this. And this does not like that, because to this thinks it's dead. When a part of you is separate from your physical body, if you're not trained within that, your physical body thinks you're dying. So it does what it can. It'll hurt. It'll make a pain to pull your consciousness here, to ground you here. It'll be like, nope. That's why in meditation, eventually, my knees hurt. It's the physical body's protesting you going anywhere. And
okay.
So,
I think I can see what you're saying. Let me see if this is it. You know Wim Hof?
Mm-hmm.
He talks about breathing and then cold. So I do this thing in the shower. I will take 10 of these breaths that are as much in as I can take, and then only letting out a third.
Mm-hmm.
Take 10 of those, and then turn the water as cold as it gets, and take 20 more. And I remember Wim saying, it's almost like a dance. And you know that feeling when you hit cold water and you like lose all your breath?
Mm-hmm.
You can skip that.
Mm-hmm.
You can step outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can, if you relax into it and just dance with it, then you can breathe
Mm-hmm.
the same way through as cold as it gets by just like disconnecting.
Yeah.
If you be in your body, then you can't breathe. But if you just kind of step outside of that and let your body be uncomfortable and just relax into the uncomfortableness, it just like goes away, it disappears.
Yeah, I've studied. I've looked at some of his stuff, and I like, especially for me, like I'll go to the sauna and the steam room and the gym, and then I'll take really cold showers afterwards. And I was applying the same things, and I was like, yeah, if you don't do the, you don't get cold. If you don't do that process and send that message, your body's like, oh. And this is you're getting into my woo, like with everything I do, even like every sensation I'm trying to, when I can find awareness during the day with every type of sensation, I try to understand it from a different perspective. Like tell my body, and this is like go to the Vipassana, because the Vipassana retreats, this is what it's all about. It's like the basis of the meditation is you scan your body for an hour, and every sensation you come across, you say that's a sensation. You don't label it good, bad, positive. You don't give it anything other than the term sensation. That's the powerful impactfulness of this technique and how it has such an effect is from the time we've been born, we've been programmed to call things as good or bad, do out, just up one or the other, up, down, negative. That's our base programming in this reality. That's why that's the whole middle path and stuff, is freeing yourself from that perspective. And it's hard. So you go to this place for 10 days and you sit down, and for as much as you can, every painful sensation you come across or pleasant sensation you call like, that's a sensation. Get it right. That's just a sensation. Next. As soon as you realize, you feel a sensation, you're like, sensation next. Sensation next. So you can be up here and like, and your knees like, motherfucker, you better move. You've been sitting here for an hour. I'm mad. And you're like, sensation. And like you start to loosen, like you're saying, you start to step back from this game that we've all been, this dance that we've all been taught that's wrong. It's like, that's a shitty dance. But it takes conscious awareness. And so this is for me. All right. A couple months ago, I read the article that was saying scientists just discovered the enzyme in the ear that translates the sound vibrations into electricity for your brain. What does that mean? That means the sounds you hear are just electrical impulses being translated by your brain. The same goes for your eyes. The same goes for every sense we have. So everything we think we know is happening up here in this inside of our skull, in a dark place. There's no light. Well, there's light coming in your eyes, whatever. But it's all getting to this place via electrical signals, and then you're perceiving it. So when I'm like, you could take a drug and like you wind up your theater just starts playing a different movie. It's still there. You're like all your conscious wherewithal is there, but it's like, oh shit, I turned the frequency to it. Like they took the roll off the big projector and put a different movie on. And then you can open your eyes and you'll be back in this one, and you close your eyes and you're there and you're like, what the fuck? And you can't stop it for a certain period of time. And you're like, oh shit, there's something that they're not telling us about this whole reality. And that's how I think we can start to like expand our like capabilities, supernatural powers. They're just dimensions of frequencies that are already there that we have to tune our antenna into.
Right.
And that I've only found that capable of doing that, like in meditation, when you shut everything else out.
What do you mean you've only?
You can't, like, you can change those, but you gotta have to kind of have to block everything else out and get yourself into a place where you're kind of at your own little synthesizer board where you can start messing with your own knobs. It's like some people in drugs will do it, but they switch your whole board up and then it goes back and you don't know how it happened. Some situations you get in, like intense situations, might just turn something on for you, but you don't know how it did. But these things you can activate within yourself, really just by kind of going in and allowing yourself to activate them.
I think maybe I feel different about that. For me, meditating or drugs or a float tank or an intense experience, whatever it is, it's like these are different ways of moving into a different frequency. There are different ways of like switching, but if you understand that you can switch, if you really start to understand, like accept it, that there's all these different frequencies and you're just like, you can tune into a different one, then for me at least, it keeps getting easier. It keeps getting easier to change which frequency I'm tuning into. So I can be in the car, in the traffic, and feel this like intense pressure to be pissed off because everybody else is. And that's like I'm in that pool at that time. But it keeps getting easier to just like, no, I don't want to do that. And change my own without having to meditate.
And it's when you sit there and meditate, for those moments when you're not out there thinking about a thought that you're when you're not focusing on the breath or whatever your meditation focal point is, you're training yourself to do that all the time. You're training yourself to be able to do that as much as possible, whenever.
Right.
And that's how, like, the only way to actually start changing your frequency is to consciously do it. And so when you find that awareness, you can be like, I'm aware. You're like, as soon as you're aware, you start vibrating that frequency that you intended to when you're aware. And it's just like, it's practice. I don't care if you do it 1 second one day, 1 second the next day. I promise you within a while, you'll be doing it 2 seconds and then 4 seconds. And it builds on that until it's getting hard for me to know when I'm not aware now. Like I have to, like, I don't know when I'm like, I have to catch myself in unaware moments, and it's like, oh, Jordan, damn it. But like, it's like I'm talking with a partner, and she's like, you notice a lot of things. I'm like, after a while, you get bored with awareness, and you have to find something to do. So you start to see more things when you're consciously doing things. Like the simple automation is people driving around and thinking about the 10 different problems they might have, or a future thing and a past thing. Like when you meditating, you kind of really think about those things and you kind of hash them out. So then you're kind of just left with this quiet space. And you kind of have the ability to not choose stressful things to fill it with at that point, because you've kind of dealt with a lot of those stress. Some big things will come up eventually, like, oh, here's a problem from when I was 5 years old that I didn't remember. Like, oh, I know what I need to meditate on. But in general, you kind of sifted all your problems. So you have more time, because you have more time. I can't explain this to people. I'm like, if I meditate, okay, say I have.
I think I have a really good analogy. Jonathan and I worked on this a lot. We talked about it, and like we talked about this analogy a lot. We developed it a lot. That's what I'm trying to say. To a computer, and if you have 20 programs open, well, first of all, different computers have different native processing powers. They can handle different amounts of process.
I see where you're going. I like this analogy.
And then how many programs you have open? If you got 25 windows open on a computer that can only handle 5, then everything's really choppy. It doesn't work. Think about how long it takes you to get something done on that kind of computer. Forever. And you're super frustrated because it's not like that time. you've slowed or you've sped time way up. You're like wasting it on all these other things all the time, such that you don't have any left.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start closing those windows, if you start resolving things, if you start saying, whatever it is, I screwed up here, and look at it and think about it and accept it and resolve it,
Mm-hmm.
you're closing the window.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can get down to where you're just looking at the desktop, and now you can open a program and run it really fast. And when you just do that one program, you can do it. You can devote all of your processing power to that one
Mm-hmm.
program now because you closed out all the other things.
Yeah, I love it. And this, yeah, we could probably switch it or start using smartphones too, because most people use smartphones. You know, when you have a bunch of app opens, your phone starts acting all stupid. But I say it a lot. I explain this concept to people, and I remember the first time I said it way back when I was in my master's program. I think it was like, if I meditate, and the Vipassana retreat, they tell you to meditate twice a day for an hour, and I'm like, ugh. But if I spend a half hour in the morning and a half hour at night meditating, say I have the same amount, same 24 hours, I get 8 hours of sleep, set that aside. Before I start meditating, I have the other 16 hours of the day to fit all my stuff in, and I try and do it. And then I'm like, what do you mean? I put an hour of meditation in, so I carve out those 2.5 hours. Within a few days, I find myself with at least another hour of time where I don't have anything to do. Whereas before I was busy the whole time. And it's because that's just like, people don't get it. I'm like, you put an hour in to get extra time out. Like, you don't realize how inefficient we are when you got 20. Most people don't realize they got 20 windows open, and how inefficiently they are running because of that fact. When you meditate, you sit down, and like for me now, meditation is like, with the smartphone analogy, it's like open up all the list of apps and just hitting the close all button. It's like, that's what meditation does for me now. It's like, cleared that docket, because it's gotten so easy. Like, it gets a process where you're like, done. Let's go sit outside in the sun because I don't got shit to do. But like this, you've obviously been working at it too. People, it's weird for us to understand that the normal population does not do this. If you don't understand it, I'm telling you that's the case. I know as a therapist and a spiritual healing community that thrives on this shit. So here it's hard to get jaded by it.
Pause. Because I have a unique perspective there. If you YouTube audience don't already know, Jordan and I met at the conversation that we did in Santa Rosa, which is right by Sebastopol. So Jonathan and I went on this trip to, okay, says my internet connection is unstable. It's a weird dude. Like I had a bunch of them in a short amount of time, and that place like stuck out as freaking weird. Like, and I don't know how to describe it, but you can do a better job describing it.
I moved up here in 2015. It was my spiritual teacher that pulled me up here. I actually remembered a side story the other day. That shooting that happened in San Bernardino. Do you remember a few years ago? I could have been in that room if I had. And it's I don't know. I kind of see Sebastopol especially as this like hub. It's like a spiritual people hub. One of them, and like in America, it's good as close as you can get to like getting a little woo. It does it here, and people just coming from all different little. And it's an energy, like you're saying, and you don't know what it is, and it's the areas. Some parts of Santa Rosa are a little ghetto. It's not like this really nice looking place necessarily, but there's a really distinct energy here and it's not necessarily easy to integrate with. Like, it takes, like, the way that my teacher had described it, and I've pretty much taken this, like, this is the way it is around here. It takes about a year and a half for this place to let you in. Like, if you try and move here for about 18 months, it's gonna be hard, and it's gonna be like, leave, push you out, because it's almost like you're trying to frequencies or mesh with this frequency, and it'll raise you up, but it's a challenge. Like, any change is a challenge. And it's like, if you're gonna get here, you're gonna put in work. But once you get to this certain level, my partner just really experienced it too. It's like you click in, and then things just get really easy, man. Like it just starts showering you with good things. Like anything you need, like your intent, their deeper intentions, desires, money, relationship, they'll like, here you go. If you just kind of flow and you have the conscious awareness of it. It can go bad too if you did it. Like it makes your energy a little more potent. So if you're not aware of it, every thought you have puts off energy. So you better be a little bit more in control of your thoughts because the bad things will manifest too.
Yeah, it's like if you, I'm trying to stretch my analogy. Like if we're these computers interacting, and you're the weak link in the chain, there's pushback.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. Well, we all take energy. I've been really careful for a while, and like just still getting more and more careful about who I'm around, because you take energy. I used to remember going to my job and like I said this every time I opened the door, I felt a little bit of my soul die. And then that was the door to the outside. And then I'd open the door to my little cubicle farm, my specific cubicle farm, and just like a wave of bleh. And I forgot where I was going with that.
The way I would like to refer to what you're kind of talking about is, and I like on the grander level, when I'm trying to get people to open their minds up to a different reality, I'm like, you know that joke, do fish know they're swimming in water?
Right.
Realize we're all swimming in water, people. None of us realize it. There's something around us that's palpable and different. You just need to learn to access it. Damn, I just lost where I was going too. What the hell? This is a slippery one.
You got hijacked.
What? Oh, I hate when this happens. It's like hold the thing. Oh, I'm losing it.
It's just like the more you try to grab it, the more it disappears.
Oh, wow. But yeah, there's a lot of healing people around here in Sebastopol, so it's a lot more prominent. But
you I could see most people would not be comfortable there. Most people would like. It feels weird. It feels way different. It is way different.
People don't like uncomfortable. I do. I like change. Like, I like being in a situation where, like, oh, that makes me uncomfortable because I want to make myself not. So I force myself to change, which I'm like, oh God, I feel evolved. I feel not evolved. I feel like I've changed myself for the better, which is what I think we're all here to do.
It's stretching. Getting stronger. Like the more I do that, the stronger I get. The more times I take on something that makes me feel that way and tackle it, the more confident I am that I can do the next one. And then I see how it works out for me. But like I'm very confident that I can handle whatever situation because I've attacked a lot of really different ones, and I keep getting better at learning how to overcome them. And especially relative to other humans, I'm confident that whatever the situation is, I'm getting pretty good at tackling it. And even more than that, like the deeper confidence is that comes from continuing to tackle it. Like as long as I'm always working, then I know I'm staying as sharp as I can stay. I'm as long as I'm always tackling the next thing, then that's the best I can do.
When you're in a certain energy, you're swimming in the water, that energy, think a certain number of showers to get it out. Every energy pool we swim in, it has an effect on us like that. Even I don't care, like I can teach people how to energetically protect themselves and give them lots of different visualizations, but unless you're like got really good mental control of your whole energy field, things stick. And you have to consciously push them out for them to go out faster than they would naturally.
And even then, you're still spending some time defending yourself versus spending your time with a bunch of people who are lifting you up where you don't have to defend yourself, where you can run together. So even if you are good at defending from it, it's still like not even close to not having to defend from it.
Yeah, when you're getting into the whole reason why it's difficult for people to change and get out of old patterns, especially people in addictions and stuff. You can't get out when you're hanging out with the same old people that know that old frequency, and they see you in that old frequency, and when they're projecting onto you the old frequency of you, and you are trying to raise yourself up, but 10 people that you are close to, who you want to please, will make you go back to that thing if you're not really confident. That's like when any kind of change, even when they're like you gotta leave your family and all that stuff to have like spiritual evolution, because everybody holds you in a certain vibration, and they don't like change, so they're gonna see you there. And if you try to change, they're like, you get back in your box, because that's what I know. Because you changing makes them change, and they don't. People don't consciously change unless people meditate, and even most meditators, I find, you kind of get lost on the path. Man, this is hard to stay awake.
It's just work. You just you start losing muscle as soon as you stop going to the gym. You got to keep going to the damn gym. And I have family home, so I don't know. Tell me if it gets loud or obnoxiously loud or whatever.
Yeah, you have to keep working. And so
they're gonna walk around right on my head.
Yeah, we can end it a little bit, but you have to keep working. And then now throw this on top of our societal structure right now, where people are getting used to being taken care of. That's the real deeper manipulation to me. It's like when you train a whole population to be taken care of, they don't lose the ability. It gets dampened their ability to self-evolve and work for because from my spiritual perspective, it takes a lot of work to remain any kind of higher vibration. And you don't think every day when people do shitty things to me, I'm like, I've trained in martial arts. I'm a strong black man. I can do damage if I need to, but I have never done and I won't, because I'm like, test, Jordan. This is a test. Like, where's your energy at? But it takes work. And sometimes when there's a whole, like, we're all going through something right now. If you want to get into the woo and the whole what's going with the sun and all the frequencies, our whole planet, there's a reason we're all going crazy. It's not all just because we're having a bad day. There's frequencies affecting us. And sometimes it's like, I want to feed in those frequencies too. Let's go out and get some trouble. But it's a conscious choice. We all have to work. So, like, people need to wake up, and I think the world's going to make us have a little more self-responsibility, because that's the only way we're going to spiritually evolve as people, because they're taking away our desire to evolve ourselves.
Which is unsustainable. They've tricked everyone into thinking that we can all just sit on the couch and we're really, really sick. Do you stand up and start fixing it, or you just let it go? Just close your eyes. And
Yeah, it's like 1/3 of Americans are obese. That's sad.
I was talking to an old guy about that the other day. A 75-year-old guy. He's saying, like, it's scary how much bigger people are.
And like I said,
how everyone.
Yeah, I'm a massage therapist too, working on bodies. Like, I don't work on big people anymore. I'm like, I'm not hurting my body to try and ease the pain that your fat is causing. I'm not trying to be mad. I weigh 260 myself, so I know what it's like. I see them and my joints kind of cry. Like, ow. And I'm like, I know that used to suck, right? But you see people walking around, and I'm like, oh, that is not sustainable. That's a perfect word, like, to describe what's going on in our world. That's unsustainable. And like, you can see the unawareness of people when people like that are like, my knees hurt, my back hurts, and I don't know why. They come to get a massage. I need some pills, or I need this, and I'm like, you need to stop eating so much.
You got to do the work. You got to do the work every day to try and put better food in your mouth, to move enough to.
And this goes back to being able to have honest conversations, which is what the whole PC thing has gotten a little out of hand. Like, we can have honest conversations about things without getting offended people. Come on.
Yeah, and like, do you know this book Mindset, Carol Dweck? It's the differentiation or the comparison, I don't know the word I'm looking for, between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Okay.
Are you just like gonna be mad and unable to grow and change and stuck there fixed? It's not gonna work very well. And if you can flip to a growth mindset, if you can have so and fix people, it seems to me, or the things where you get defensive. If you're getting defensive, then you're in a fixed mindset about that. You've tried to justify it and lock it away like that. It's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
If you stop being defensive,
Mm-hmm.
then that is the same as switching to this growth mindset where you can look at it and learn from it and resolve it and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think I've talked about this before, but I'm going to play off of that analogy because fix versus growth. So I was sitting in the sauna, and this big white dude walks in with swastika, SS, and I'm sitting there. I'm trying to be peaceful, meditating in the sauna, and this dude walks in with his friend, and I'm like, ugh. But at that point, it's all my world. What's about to happen next? This guy didn't even acknowledge that I was there, kind of, right? Fixed. I'm like, fuck this guy. He's a racist. Blah, 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 blah. Growth mindset. I'm like, no, let's not. Jordan, you were trying to meditate. Let's meditate. So I just stopped thinking and just chill. And I hear this guy talking to his friend, and he's talking about people in their lives, and he's saying like, love. I love this person. Oh, and I can tell like he's expressing love for all these people in his family. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, so he's a person that just whatever. And then I'm like thinking, back in India, thousands of years ago, they used the swastika. It's a very powerful sign. That's actually why Hitler chose it, because it's a very powerful symbol of love and all these types of things. Why are you choosing to perceive that symbol a certain way? Like, it wasn't always perceived that way by a whole race of people for thousands of years. And it's like, oh, I don't have to. And this person, regardless of any kind of ignorant thoughts he might have, he experiences love for people that he knows. I experience love for people I know. Why can't I just experience love for him too? And I chose to put off a different energy than the one of like, oh man, this guy's a racist. I don't like him. None of that depended on anybody else. And the only thing that what I could do in that situation was what I did to make the situation any kind of better.
Right.
And that wasn't, nobody prompted me to do that. That's just like, oh, it's time to change, Jordan. Like, because I didn't like the energy I was feeling from seeing that.
Right. So, your set of experiences, your learned things that you're supposed to believe, and then you're confronted with a situation, something happens, and it's a mindless thing that experiences emotion and then reacts mindlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Or a growth mindset is stepping out like, okay, I'm experiencing this. What am I going to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like people are waking up to that quick. And I feel like this week has been a particular, I feel like it's just continuing to ramp up. And I think that we're going to go through an S-curve thing. And this makes me wonder, dude, I think I have two more entire conversations in my head already, which is, it makes me wonder to use Bix, are the good guys going to win? Are the good guys going to win and just shut down the Fed? And then we rip this Band-Aid off really quick? Before I was saying that they wouldn't. Before I was saying the bad guys aren't going to let that happen. But I wonder if we're going to wake up fast enough that we do just take off the Band-Aid.
I think it's gonna
I've always saved that. I'm going to jump off. The other one that I thought of when you were saying, is there more good or bad? By which measure?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have a proton is equal in weight to an electron, but it's only about 2% of the size. And the electron is this big cloud that you can't really nail it down to anything, and it just kind of is there, and it's 98% of the volume. And then the proton in the middle is 2% of the volume, but the same amount of mass to where this thing stays in balance.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the same with good and bad. I think that's the same with good and bad in people and at a societal level, where there's a few people that are pushing really hard and they're making a big difference. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that are just not doing shit, and they're just there and they're a drag, but they're much less of a drag because they're much less dense.
Yeah, it's like a spectrum, and yeah, I get what you're saying. I agree. And on the jumping back to what you were saying just before, people are gonna wake up. Why people are waking up, even with the whole Trump thing. Okay, there's this whole what the anxiety people are feeling, especially a lot of more Republican people. It's like he's doing things that a lot of us want done, but he says a lot of just bad things. He says and does things that are just bad, but he's doing a lot of good things too. He's like ending wars and stuff, and people have this anxiety about it.
Mhm.
And this Marius Landman guy, he's a guy that's in Australia, and he actually does a similar thing kind of Cliff High with the WebBot. But he has his own program, and he does everything. It's a good, interesting guy to check it out. But he was saying some of his data is showing, and think about this propensity for all of us to root for the underdog. What's happening is that unconsciously people are starting to see that everything about Trump is negative, and they're kind of like this part of us that roots for the underdog that wants to like protect the thing that's being just shat on is starting to being triggered in people. They're kind of like, what the hell, man? Like, why am I being blasted with all these from every side, all these negative stories? And people are kind of like, like they don't like it. They're having the. You see this tick in people. Like people say bad things about Trump, and people are like, I don't want to defend him, but it's like this thing's evolving, and that's what like the Mobius strip. I don't care what people they think that they control shit and they can put what they want. This Mobius strip squirts out something that's like it's gonna be your undoing, man. Like go back to Kung Fu Panda 1. You often create the thing you seek to destroy. Like your actions we often create the thing we're seeking to stop based on the actions we take to stop it. And that's kind of what's happening with if there's a cabal of people in charge. There are gonna be their own undoing eventually. That's why I just play the long game. And I'm like, I just watch the show along the way, man.
It's the same thing with the thought. The harder you try to grab it, it's the same thing with love. It's the same thing with happiness. The harder you try to grab it, the more it just disappears.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna hop off.
All right,
hop off. It was a good talking to you, man.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do it again.
Yeah, peace.